Kaya was diagnosed when she was 2.5. She had no language, nothing, not a word. She was pretty oblivious when she was a baby. I mean, now she's very aware of her surroundings. But when she was a baby, it was like she was blank. I am seeing behaviors that I haven't seen since she was 3. Pouring of water over my head, or anywhere really, or any liquid she can get a hold of. Dumping everything and anything in the toilet. The aggression is off the charts. Her sleeping is she'll be up from 1 a.m. till 5:30. And then, of course, she naps in the morning. So then that throws her whole day off. So there are no services right now. No centers are open. Therapists aren't coming to the home. Just like everywhere else, people are just offering virtual therapy sessions. She loves her therapist. So, she doesn't understand why we can't go see them. We just need life to resume, as every other parent does. But 2 things that actually have come out of it that are good is she's trying more foods and her language. She's talking a lot more. So I don't know if it's kind of a break from the world, and I don't know. It's crazy. We do go to my mom's, who lives 3 kilometers from us, and she's home by herself. She doesn't see anybody else, and we don't really see anybody else. So I know you're not supposed to do that, but if I didn't get her somewhere at some point in the day, it just got to the point where the destruction in the house and the behaviors were so bad. And I have to grocery shop. So I thought the lesser of 2 evils was taking her to my mom's and me masking up and gloving up and going grocery shopping. And that's all we do. We go to a lot of walks and hikes, but really past that there's nothing to do. The little talk right now about maybe bringing some students back in June, I'd be open to it only because if the virus doesn't kill us, this is going to. So, and I know that sounds horrible to say, and people would be like, "You're so aloof. How dare you?" I'm dead serious.
No,
I think it rolled the dice at this point.
In-person therapy started back October or November. Yeah. And I didn't do the Zoom stuff because she's not going to sit in front of a computer and get any benefit out of it. So I just said, no, we'll just wait till we're back in person. Her school was really good. They've been open the whole year, and they did a great job with, there's cases and you get the email, but really not that many. I think I only got a handful of emails. But, I also feel like I'm sending my daughter to school. I'm expecting to get those emails, right? However, Kaya's missed 98 days of school. She had a couple of big seizures in November, and since then has not had any desire to go back to school. But I think for our children, routine and structure is so, so important. And in the moment, I didn't think it was an issue. But when Kaya lost the structure of school and therapy, it really did kind of crumble our world. And we're still trying to pick the pieces up. I mean, we have got a 7-person team in place trying to desensitize her to go back to school. It's like, she's just not used to being there. She's out of that routine. I'm like, you can't be a 5th grade dropout. Like, you gotta go to school, kid. You gotta get off the couch. And, I think the other thing that a lot of people don't understand is, and I'll just use my daughter as an example. Everything we do is it's not necessarily a learned skill, but it's a practice skill. So going to a restaurant is practiced. Learning to not run around, blare your iPad, scream, is a learned practice skill. And when you don't get to go to a restaurant for a year, and she's dying to go, she loves going. And, it was hard in the best of circumstances. And then you add in all the layers of what the restrictions of COVID, and it's just, like things that we enjoyed, which is, Kaya actually really liked going to movies. We would quite often go to a movie, and we haven't been able to do that. We have a pool, a beautiful, big, 12 feet underground pool. Do you think she cares? She could give a rip about it. She wants to go to the city pool because there's kids there. So that's the one thing that I would say the hardest thing out of COVID that's been taken from her, but that's not there, is they haven't opened the rec center yet. My daughter didn't understand. And so now she'll just yell, virus, go away, virus, right? Because everyone kept saying, well, it's a virus, it's a virus, it's a virus. And now she'll say, go away, virus. Yes, Kaya, the world feels that way. So I'm in Vancouver, so we had an initial shutdown and, partial things like you could do takeout and patio, but you couldn't eat in. we're all back open again. So hopefully, you know, I think that's kind of the downfall that's come from COVID with no school and no therapy and nothing open, is that we were home all the time, and the iPad. I mean, she was on the iPad a lot before, but now it's constant. There's no taking it. So we're launching this as a suggestion. Obviously, the upside is I got to spend a lot of time with her. So, I mean, that's been great.
So Will's my oldest. He's the one with autism. Wes is my youngest. I mean, I guess he would be high functioning. Nobody has ever said that to me. Like, they've never used those words. He's in public school, but I don't know if you talk to many Canadians, but there's not a lot of options in Canada, like for different schools. Like, I don't do any therapies with him, but he has an aide all day at school, basically to keep him on task. And it's funny because, like, when he's at home, it's like, I feel like it's almost like he's not even on the spectrum. And it's just when he's in, like, somewhere where he feels uncomfortable, like, you know, things like that's where you start to see it more. When there's no demands on him, he's fine. So you can go out to grocery stores and to the doctor or to the pharmacy. They want you to basically stay home other times, like just going out for essential stuff, doing walks in your neighborhood, but like not going to like parks or anything like that right now. So it's kind of like, I guess, a stay-at-home order type thing. So that's what we're doing right now. I feel kind of guilty because I hear such terrible stories about how kids are regressing and everything. I'm not seeing any of that with Will. To be honest, he is living his absolute best life right now. With schoolwork, I have learned that I can't just like get him to sit down and do it all at once. And I can use bribery. So I can say, if you want your iPad, or if you want to watch this movie or whatever, like, you need to do, these 3 things first, and then you can have it. Well, I think the biggest thing that we struggle with is you hear all the time about siblings and how amazing they are with kids on the spectrum. And they're like, oh, they're like, they look after them and they help them and they do all these things. Like, not my youngest. Like, he picks on him, tries to fight with him, and tries to annoy him. Wes doesn't see anything really different with Will, and so he just feels rejected because he wants Will to play with him all the time. And my youngest really dislikes that Will's on the iPad all the time. Like, he can't stand that because he hears other people talk, or like teachers, and like, oh, you shouldn't be on electronics all the time. Like, they teach kids that, right? And so then he sees his brother and he's like, Will, like, you shouldn't be on your electronics all the time. So it's not like great right now. Like, especially right now, like, I find during like quarantine, it's just, and then I feel guilty because I'm like, maybe I should try and get him off the dang iPad. But it's like, that's what he loves. Yeah. And when I've tried to take the iPad away in the past, it doesn't correlate with him suddenly playing and, doing something else. Like, it's usually just him almost feeling lost, like he has nothing to do and just kind of pacing around the house. So I'm like, it's a tough situation because I don't know how to handle it.
We didn't go many places, like, really, for like the last 15 months, but we at least did get together with friends who had a pool. And for the fall, it was pretty good. Like, they were at school, stores were open and all of that, but we just had to wear masks wherever we went. And then it was after Christmas was the second wave, I guess, where they shut everything down. And I was like, oh no, this is going to go on forever. And luckily, it was only until early February. And then the kids went back to school again. Things opened up. We thought things were going well. And at that point, vaccines were out, at least available some places. And so, we thought, oh, great. Like, everybody's going to get their vaccine. And then that third wave, just like, that was the worst one. Like, just everything shut down. So that was mid-April. They changed the March break for the kids. Instead of being in March, they made it mid-April, and then the kids just never went back to school after that. That was it. Everything has been totally locked down. Like, you can't get together with friends. You can't do anything like that. So Will's teacher's been so amazing. She doesn't make him get on the computer and do the lessons online. Like, we just do them ourselves. we decided to switch up the kids and give them their own bedrooms because they were sharing a room before, because that's what they said they wanted. They never wanted their own room, but I thought, you know what, like, let's just try this, it'll be fun. And so we gave them their own room, and they've been like loving it. So I found that helped a lot. So there is no behavioral issues between them at all now. Like, it's really good. We just bought a new house, so, but I made sure it was like the same neighborhood, like nothing's gonna change. So it's just a little bit bigger, so he's gonna have more space to run, because he loves to run. He says, Mom, I can think when I'm running, and it's a stim, right? Yeah. So, and it has a pool. Being in lockdown, I'm like, we need a pool. And like, it is so good for Will. Like, he loves pools. So anyway, so we're excited about it, but we're hoping we'll be able to travel to at least Nova Scotia this summer, because that's where our family is. So, because their borders have been completely locked, even to the rest of Canada. So it's been almost 2 years since we've seen our family, and the kids they miss them so much. So that's really been the hardest. Even for like Will, like they can't wait to go back to Nova Scotia. So
Elliot's 7, Evelyn is 6. She's typical, fully verbal, fully everything. I tried to homeschool a little bit, and it sort of worked, kind of, but like, I'm not his teacher. He doesn't respect me as a teacher.
No,
so
I know.
he eventually just started going downhill there. And it's like, slowly, we start to see more anxiety come up, more aggression. His aggression comes out in spitting. So gross. That's new. Not so much hitting, but he can if he's really, screaming, a lot of screaming, throwing. We have a girl that comes in as our childminder, like normal world, she comes in. So she was still coming in right before the Easter break. They locked the country down. So then we started doing this thing where my husband would work morning, and then I'd watch both kids. And then I'd start at like 1, and then he'd watch both kids. Now, though, it's gotten so bad that I have to be with Elliot all day, and he takes Evelyn. We don't like to keep them separate, but we just can't. He spits at her. Like, it's just, and it hurts her feelings, It breaks her heart. And so we've been working on the differential reinforcement, and every minute that he doesn't spit at her, I give him a treat and say, well done for not spitting at your sister. It's just so bizarre. It's so sad to me that a 7-year-old little boy has so much anxiety that he can't help,
Yeah.
And we can't fix. I give him everything he wants. I'm like, tell me, I'll do what you want. But he's still doing all these things. And it's like, he's just a ball of anger with a little bit of happiness here and there, But we started him on Prozac. And so we only started Thursday, and I know it can take weeks. We're locked down to a 2-kilometer radius of our house. So you can go to the grocery store, but that's it. So there's no visits, there's no nothing. We're totally locked down. But we have a letter from his disability team that says he's autistic and he needs sensory regulation and he needs these things. Mm-hmm. So we go to a beach that's about 20, 30 minutes away, and we have gotten stopped by the cops, but you show the letter and they're always very, like, it's obvious, look in the back seat. Like, it's not, but like, I have to sit between the kids now in the back seat because he'll try and spit at her. Oh. But it works. Like, he can do that. And it's funny because, like, a long time ago, I would have been like, I wish he could talk. I wish all these things. Now, I just wish he would my kids could be in the same room. That's all I care about. They've given us a plan for reopening on Tuesday, May 5th. You can go up 5 kilometers. And the elderly can start leaving their houses as long as they stay away from other people, because they're like totally locked in. They can't leave their house. And then on May 18th, a couple of more things will open up. And then 3 weeks later, if it's going well, a couple, So that's, we have a plan now, which is something. And I wish Elliot could understand the plan, but he can't. No. That's the bummer. The first thing we're going to try to do is on May 18th is get our ABA therapist to come back in. He listens to her. If he gets upset with her, like, she doesn't care. You know what I mean? Yeah. She can just sit there and it doesn't bother her. And he knows that, so he'll eventually come around. But at least then maybe he'd be getting a bit of, like, education. It doesn't even have to be writing or whatever. Like, she works on his speech and stuff. Just sitting at a table, having a structure. So that's the next thing. And then I'm hopeful that in June, our childcare, like our minder, who can come back in. And that for me is more the benefit of my daughter. Like, even if I still had to watch Elliot all day myself, at least Evelyn would be getting a bit of someone else, someone else. Because really, for me, the most important thing about this pandemic is it's not even the virus. I'm less concerned about the virus. Obviously, I don't want them to get it, but because we're locking down, we won't. But is their mental health? I just want them to both be, and he's just losing it.
Ireland, we never came fully out, but like everyone, but January 4th, we went back into full lockdown again. So everything's been shut. And it didn't open up again until the start of May. We had a certain things open, hair salons, barbers, and some retail. But only a couple of weeks ago did gyms, pools open up. The play centers are still closed. So we're still in a pretty decent lockdown. We still obviously have all the masks and everything, but we still can only meet 2 households indoors. Everything is still outdoor dining for restaurants and pubs. And as you can imagine, a lot of places don't have outdoor seating because it's Ireland, and most of the 80 to 90% of the year you can't sit outside. Yeah. So there's no use to them having it. So they're starting to just shut down parking lots and just put lots of picnic tables around. At least it gives people a place to go. And concerts are starting to be scheduled. You can travel to open countries at the moment, but you have to have tests before you go, negative tests before you go, and you have to have negative tests when you come back. And they charge for those. They're €75 each. So that's very expensive. They're charging it because it's non-essential. Mm-hmm. And so right now, kind of what's in the news is make those free. That's not fair. Make those free so that we can start to travel. So when our childcare, so our childminder was able to come back in, and then we also have an ABA tutor, when they were able to come back in, it did provide with some normalcy. Online education for Elliot just doesn't work. Even when his anxiety is low. I think for me, what I missed on the school side was probably more of the social skills aspect of it, just learning to be around other people that aren't his family. We had been through a period of significantly increased anxiety with the original lockdown, and we had implemented a couple of things to sort of work on that. But now, progressing on from it, we are seeing that some of those anxieties that he picked up, they're still there. It's just when his anxiety is lower, they don't come out as, he's okay with more stuff. But his behaviors, even though we've had the Prozac, that was a game changer, I have to say, because my husband was reminding me of the first lockdown the other day and telling me, reminding me of what was actually happening. And he was almost feral, nothing could go right. We are in a much better place. I actually thought that when this was all over, we'll just magically go back to the way it was. And now that I realize that his anxieties that he's picked up, those will probably remain, and yes, maybe when life goes back to normal or the way it was before, they will lessen, but they will be there. And I always need to remember that so that when they come out, it's not such a surprise and so heartbreaking. But I do think he's sort of just relaxed into this space of, I go to school, I come home, we go for walks, and that's it,
My name is Lien. I live in Belgium. I have 2 kids. The eldest is 13. She is now being diagnosed for what they think is autism. And my youngest is 11. And he is diagnosed at the age of 6. I think we're in lockdown now for 9 weeks. I guess. We are opened up since the 4th of May, that we could go outside and that we could go to one other family. The 11th, they reopened the stores. We still even can go to the beach, even though it's only 30 minutes away for us. And I say we are the lucky ones because tomorrow school restarts 2 days a week, but for Leander, not for my daughter. My daughter, she still has to stay at home, and we don't have any insurance that she will be returning to school before the 1st of September. I was quite happy because Leander is in a special needs school. At the point of therapy, we were quite unlucky because I had to wait 6 years to start therapy. And the therapy started the 21st of January, and we only have therapy for 2 years. After 2 years, it stops automatically. You can't take anything else after that. That part I know. The things that changed made Leander regress. Leander also he's very social. He wants to go to everyone. That's the part that my kids miss the most, is the social activities. So normally they have soccer, and normally they have scouts, and now they have nothing. So they are bundles of stress and energy, way too much energy. He has a very much interaction with his sister, and now it's battling. It's explosion after explosion after explosion, and I'm glad the moment that I'm passing a day with only an explosion for 30 minutes. If I have that, I'm thrilled.
February 2021, we were nearing the Italian situation where people were dying in the field. We never got at that point, but it was quite close. And while we were on lockdown, we had the second diagnosis for Jitse. They then came up with the fact that she had autism as well and ADHD. It only took them 13 years to realize that. Yeah. So we had to deal with that in the same time as all the rest. Me and my husband went back to work quite fast because we work in constructions. And somehow the government realized that if we weren't doing any constructions, then the Pfizer lab and the other laboratories who are making the vaccines weren't able to make the vaccines because they didn't have enough space. So they needed us to start working again just to make sure that the factories for the vaccines were being built as fast as possible. They never realized that to get us to work, that we needed someone to take care of our kids during the whole thing, and we weren't able to see anyone at all until the beginning of August. Then they finally said that we could go back and see one other household, nothing more, one other household. So we had to make a choice in between my parents and my parents-in-law. We decided for the best that it were my parents-in-law. And I have seen my dad back for the first time after March 2020, in March 2021, and only because my grandmother died. And she died of COVID, so no messing with that. We knew why we were taking care, that we followed every single rule that they had over here. Still, we were infected by COVID ourselves in December 2020, and we were quite sick for a month. And it was my son who brought it home from school. It wasn't me nor my husband. It sucks that it happens to you when you follow every single rule, but we were worried the most about Leander getting sick of COVID because we know he's a high-risk patient. And in fact, Leander got through it quite well. He was up and functioning again after a week. My daughter was up and functioning again after a week and a half. My husband and me, we lasted for a month. We were quite lucky that we had neighbors running errands for us, that we had one store, because in Belgium we don't have Amazon food. We don't have bring at home food. That's not usual. We don't know that over here. So we were really lucky that we found one store that was willing to bring us food to the doorstep. The whole COVID time is quite insane. But on the other hand, it's the best thing that ever happened to us. My daughter is saying in the back, I'm crazy, but we had to slow down. We discovered new things in our kids. We discovered that Leander had a really talent for cooking. So he started cooking. He didn't do a single thing from his homework or his school that he had to do, but he did a hell of a job with cooking. He made the most amazing dishes that we could eat. we didn't have to be scared of being temporarily unemployed because we were paid by the government. We never had to pay anything for our health as such. The government even paid the mortgages for a lot of people. Well, everyone who owns a house in Belgium. The mortgage was being paid for 6 months. They paid our electricity bills for a whole year. So yeah, we do pay a lot of taxes, but we get a hell of a lot in return.
I'm a mom to James, who is my oldest son. He's 7.5 and he's nonverbal autistic. And then I have a daughter as well, Charlotte. She's 3.5 and completely typical. We literally got to around about middle of March and they said they were closing all the schools. So the schools closed, childcare closed, but businesses were still open. We were still allowed to work. And that lasted about another week, about maybe 10 days. The 28th, I think it was, we closed, everything shut down. So they went into level 5 lockdown, which meant that only essential services were working. So 1st of May, we moved down to what they call a level 4. A few more businesses were able to open, but pretty much no schools still. We're not allowed to buy alcohol at all at this point. Cigarette sales have been stopped. We now actually have a curfew, so we have to be in house by 8 o'clock at night, and you can leave your house again from 5 o'clock in the morning. We have times to exercise, so you can exercise from 6 in the morning to 9. That wasn't allowed when we were at level 5. You had to be at home. So there was no exercise, there was no walking, you weren't allowed to go out your house. You could go to the shop, but we're limited in terms of number of people in the shop. At this point, we're all wearing face masks. I mean, my son does not wear a face mask. We can't get it on him. We will practice, but I don't think we'll end up having any success there. But yeah, so it's quite strict here. At level 4, we're allowed to have carers of special needs or disabled. We have a carer that helps us normally with James, so she'll start coming back to work. But again, she needs a permit to be able to do that. And also, public transport here is not fantastic, so we actually will now be fetching her and, bringing her to work, and just to ensure that there's no risk to her and her family. We haven't been able to have therapists. School is on Zoom, which is interesting. That's chasing James around our house with a laptop. It's very difficult to get him to sit. And they've helped us in terms of putting together like his daily, we've got a visual schedule now for him. And they were very good in terms of putting that together, giving us a breakdown of what his day looks like at school. Obviously, we can't necessarily stick to that exact format because we can't replicate school here. But in terms of his routine, he struggles a lot. We had lots of, especially in the first week, no sleeping. We had one night where he made himself sick from his anxiety and then went to sleep very early, woke up at quarter past 11 at night, and then stayed awake for the rest of the night. So it's been managing his anxiety. We've been lucky. Our doctor gave us a letter that allows us to take him for a drive. So once a day, twice a day, we'll take him for a drive around the neighborhood. But again, we can't leave to go anywhere. There's nothing open. None of our restaurants, our takeaways are open. So you can't go through a drive-through. And all of his sort of things that kind of gave him a routine are no longer available. So, I mean, it's caused complete chaos for us. Both my husband and myself are also still trying to work full time during all the chaos. We've started walking now. Obviously, from Friday, we're allowed to do exercise outside of the house. So we've started taking him for walks, but they're not very far, and we can't go to the park. So it does cause a bit of an upset. So we walk, and in 100 meters, we get him lying down on the floor, and you have to lift him up and walk on. My husband's parents have come around once, and we at least have a fence across the front of our house, which helps. So they could stand sounds terrible, but they could stand on the one side of the fence and we could stand on the other. So at least that allowed them to see them. It's very difficult to regulate a child that needs as much movement as an autistic child needs. So to be confined to your house and it's been a nightmare. During school holidays, we'd still send him. They have a holiday program, so he would still go to school. The only time he gets a break is over December, which for us is our long holidays. So he's actually not used to being at home either. He's not, and he's quite a social child. He wants to go out. He wants to get in the car. He wants to go visit Granny and Grandpa. All of that's now disappeared. There's nowhere that you can go. There's nowhere you can take them to get a break. I feel that we've lost. Sorry, we've lost everything that we've kind of been working so hard to put in place. So all the routines that regulate our children, all the things that we do to keep our kids on track and to make them successful has been taken away. So I think that for me has caused the biggest upset here. He's very loud. So it's taken away all of our routines, and I mean I understand that everyone has routine, but I don't think it's as important as it is for an autistic child. Also, by taking away in South Africa our ability to go for a walk or to go to the park, we've lost. I mean, we have a trampoline at our house, but my son, there's only so much jumping on a trampoline you can do. So we didn't have a massive first wave. We definitely had like higher numbers, but nothing major. What we're seeing with the second wave, which was when we opened up more and people were able to go out to restaurants and you were able to, live life a bit more freely, that's obviously when we had a spike. And now we're seeing a spike again coming into winter. So my son started going back to school beginning of June. They eased them in. It was like his school is very small. It's about 70 odd kids. So they started going back, which is quite something in South Africa at the moment, because a lot of the schools are still going back in like one day on, one day off. They're trying to control the numbers, I suppose, to have smaller groups in the classroom. All the kids are still wearing masks at the moment. We're all still wearing masks. Initially, I think when I spoke to you, we had a lot of behavior struggles because he couldn't go anywhere, and he likes an outing. And even now, we're quite limited in terms of where we can go. Our mask mandate is mandatory. So we do take him out. He doesn't wear a mask. And we do get quite a lot of questions about that, especially if we security at the door of the shops when you're trying to go in. But we're trying to get him back into some sort of normality and some sort of routine of, we lost all the skills of being able to walk in the shopping center and walk outside in the road. And everywhere we go, I have to phone up front to say, can I bring him in? Are you going to block us? Because the problem is, once we're there, it's not like we can turn back. He's bigger than me. He's a big boy. To get him out, we're not going to be able to do that. But we've had a lot of gains in terms of like being able to focus on life skills within our house, because we have the time and he's here.